There's a strange thing that happens when you meet two people with the exact same face, the exact same bone structure, the exact same features, and yet one of them seems attractive and the other doesn't. This isn't about symmetry or jawlines or skin, it's about behavior. Psychologists have known for decades that attractiveness is not a fixed trait sitting on your face like a mask. It's a moving target, shaped by what you do, how you carry yourself, and what your nervous system is broadcasting to everyone around you without you even realizing it. So today, we're going to break down 6 habits backed by real psychological research that quietly make people look less attractive no matter how good their genetics are. And more importantly, we're going to explain why your brain does this, because once you understand the mechanism, you can actually change it. Let's start with the first one: chronic tension in the face and body. Think about someone you know who always looks like they're bracing for bad news. Shoulders slightly raised, jaw clenched, eyebrows pulled in even when nothing is wrong. This is what psychologists call a stress posture, and it's controlled by the sympathetic nervous system, the same system responsible for your fight or flight response. Here's the problem. Humans are wired to read facial and postural tension as a threat signal. It doesn't matter if you're not actually threatening anyone. Our brains evolved in small tribal groups where tension in another person's body usually meant conflict was near. So when someone walks into a room with a clenched jaw and tight shoulders, other people's brains subconsciously categorize them as unsafe or unapproachable, and that perception directly lowers how attractive they appear, even if their actual facial features are objectively pleasant. This is why some people who are conventionally very good-looking on paper come across as cold or intimidating, while people with average features who are relaxed and loose in their body language seem magnetic. The fix isn't complicated, but it does require noticing it. Relaxing your shoulders, unclenching your jaw, softening your forehead. These are small physical adjustments, but they change the entire signal you're sending. This leads directly into the second habit, which is avoiding eye contact or using it incorrectly. Eye contact is one of the most studied nonverbal behaviors in psychology because it does 2 jobs at once. It signals confidence and it signals interest. When someone avoids eye contact consistently, darting their eyes away the moment another person looks at them, it gets interpreted as low self-esteem or dishonesty, even when neither is true. There's a well-documented effect in social psychology called the halo effect, where one trait, in this case confidence, colors how we perceive everything else about a person, including their physical appearance. People who hold steady, relaxed eye contact are consistently rated as more attractive in controlled studies, not because their face changed, but because the eye contact triggered a perception of confidence, and confidence gets projected onto the rest of their appearance. On the flip side, some people overcorrect and stare too intensely, which reads as aggressive or unsettling. The goal is natural, relaxed eye contact, the kind you'd use with a friend you trust, not a performance, and not an avoidance. Now here's where it gets interesting, because the third habit is closely tied to the first 2. Negative or defensive facial expressions become permanent over time. This is called facial feedback, and it's backed by real anatomical evidence. The muscles in your face get used based on your habitual emotional state. If someone spends years frowning, furrowing their brow, or pursing their lips in irritation, those muscles develop what's essentially muscle memory, and the face settles into that shape even at rest. This is sometimes called resting face syndrome informally, but the psychological term for the underlying process is called affect-driven facial patterning. The face isn't just responding to your current emotion, it's recording your average emotional state over years and wearing it as a permanent expression. This is why some older people have deeply kind-looking faces and others look perpetually annoyed, regardless of what mood they're actually in. And the unsettling part is that other people read this resting expression as a personality trait. They assume it reflects who you are, even when it doesn't. So chronic irritation, cynicism, or hostility, even when it's not directed at anyone specific, physically reshapes the face into something that reads as less attractive and less approachable. This brings us to the fourth habit, which is a big one: seeking constant validation. This might not seem related to appearance at first, but it absolutely is. And here's the psychological reasoning. Humans are extremely sensitive to what's called approach versus avoidance energy. People who constantly need reassurance, who fish for compliments, who ask, "Do I look okay?" repeatedly, who check their phone obsessively for likes or responses, are broadcasting what psychologists refer to as low perceived mate value, even outside of a romantic context. This isn't a moral judgment, it's simply how social perception works. Confidence is attractive because it signals stability, self-sufficiency, and social value. Neediness signals the opposite. It signals that a person requires external input to feel okay about themselves, and other people's brains pick up on this instantly, often within seconds of meeting someone. This is why two people can say the exact same sentence, but one comes across as secure and the other comes across as insecure, purely based on tone, pacing, and whether they seem to need the listener's approval to continue speaking. The fifth habit is neglecting movement and physical vitality, and this connects to something called biological motion perception. Studies using point light displays, where researchers attach small lights to a person's joints and film them moving in a dark room so all you can see are the dots of light, show something remarkable. People can accurately judge attractiveness, health, and even age just from watching the pattern of movement, with no face or body visible at all. This tells us that how you move, your gait, your posture when you walk, how fluidly you gesture, is a massive factor in perceived attractiveness separate from your actual facial features. People who move stiffly, who shuffle, who hold their body rigidly out of habit or anxiety are perceived as less vital and less attractive, because human perception is deeply tied to reading movement as a signal of health and energy. This is rooted in evolutionary psychology, since for most of human history, fluid, confident movement literally indicated a healthy, capable body, while stiff or hesitant movement could indicate injury or illness. Your brain still runs this ancient calculation today, even in a world where it doesn't need to. And finally, the sixth habit, which ties everything together, neglecting sleep and treating exhaustion as normal. This one is purely biological, but the effects are visible immediately. Sleep deprivation causes measurable changes to the face within just 1 or 2 nights of poor rest. Research using photographs of sleep-deprived versus well-rested individuals shows that observers consistently rate sleep-deprived faces as less attractive, less healthy, and less trustworthy. This happens because of visible changes like duller skin, drooping eyelids, and swelling under the eyes caused by fluid retention. But there's a deeper layer here too, because chronic sleep deprivation also affects mood regulation, and this pushes a person back toward habit number 3. Negative facial expressions become more frequent, which over time reshapes the face, as we already discussed. So sleep deprivation isn't just a temporary cosmetic issue. It feeds into a cycle that compounds all the other habits we've talked about. When you step back and look at these 6 habits together, chronic tension, poor eye contact, negative resting expressions, constant validation seeking, stiff or lifeless movement, and chronic exhaustion, you start to notice something important. None of these are about your bone structure or your genetics. They're about your nervous system, your emotional patterns, and your daily choices. This is actually good news, because it means attractiveness, in the way people actually experience it in real interactions, is far more changeable than most people assume. You can't change your face shape, but you can change how relaxed your shoulders are, how steady your eye contact is, how often you smile in a genuine way instead of a tense way, how much you rely on other people to feel okay about yourself, how fluidly you move through a room, and how seriously you take your own rest. These are small, boring, unglamorous adjustments, but they add up to something psychologists have measured again and again. People are drawn to nervous systems that feel calm, steady, and alive, far more than they're drawn to any specific facial proportion. So if you want to understand attractiveness at a deeper level, stop looking in the mirror and start paying attention to your habits instead, because that's where the real transformation happens.